All right, let's call to order this snowy meeting, February 27th, with a roll call.
Mayor Lawson,
Here.
council members Abbott,
Here.
Vanderwell, here, Anderson,
Here.
Bybee,
Here.
Dare,
Here.
City Attorney Duncan, City Manager Kreutz.
Here.
We have a quorum, thank you.
Thank you. Now we have our invocation by Pastor Malik Blythe.
With every head bow. Gracious God, we thank you for this moment to be in your presence, O Father. We ask in the name of Jesus that you would grant the council all wisdom, O Lord, that you would show all the participants in this place how magnificent and how glorious you are, not only by your judgment, O God, but through your love, through your kindness, and through your connection. We pray, O Lord, for your prosperity to be not only in this place, but over this city, so that we would learn how to do for others instead of doing for ourselves. We bless you and we honor you, and we thank you for this great opportunity to be in front of you, to discuss business and matters for this moment, that you would bless upon each and every individual here according to your glory and greatness. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Wes, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I sat in your chair. I gotta make sure I don't whack my knee. Okay, let's do public comment. Mr. Rock Cole.
Warming up. Hi, everybody.
Rock.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Rock Cole. I'm here to speak about the Five Ridges project you approved a while back, namely the massive slopes above my house that are draining straight down into my property with only hydroseed as a soil treatment. This table was presented by Wood Rogers at the original meeting. It's put together by House Moran. That's the modified soils loss equation, which is totally inaccurate. It says sediment yield estimates. It says existing versus proposed. This is your existing. This is what the proposed will look like. But the next statement's really odd. Sediment loading was reduced at all off-site discharge points. I'm going to show you the two largest discharge points as far as hydrology is concerned. They both shoot right down into my yard. That's my house in the circle right there. I showed you in the last two meetings, two videos, one taken at each discharge point. I have a whole library of those videos, and they all show the same thing, crystal clear water coming off that hill. This is a hill that God made. This is what man makes. Does anybody in this auditorium possibly think that's going to send less sediment down than that, especially after watching those videos? I doubt it. This is a picture straight above my house. That is rock that Q&D is getting ready to bury. There's enough rock in that pile right there to probably do all the slopes above my house and then some. Now, I know you guys have a 4-inch minus spec for the rodents. You could still put like a 20-foot band below those homes to protect for the rodents and do the rest of the slope with this rock. Of course, it has to be underlined by fabric or the water just runs right through the rock, picks up the sediment. I've showed you the muddy water. That's what I'm concerned about, is muddy water coming down into my yard. If muddy water was dumped on your driveway, you would have a problem too. Welcome back, Chris. All I'm concerned about is effective slopes. That is really your responsibility to do responsible development. I don't know why everybody's fighting this, because it's the only way that I'm not gonna get damaged. And this statement basically is a lie. It'll never, how can you be less than zero? You've seen the videos. crystal clear water. How do you make it less than that? There's no sediment comes off this hill. Thousands of years of rain has washed it all away. It's all down in the valley. What do you think's coming off that hill? And you're gonna protect me with silt fences and wattles? I've showed you those pictures. I can show you a lot more and probably will. And I'm gonna challenge this Musil at the next meeting because this is totally incorrect and I can prove it. I thank you for your time, City Council.
Okay, anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. I'm looking for approval of the agenda. Mr. Anderson.
I'll move to approve the agenda with the following change. We'd like to move item 9.2 ahead of item 7.1.
Okay, Mr. Abbott.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously with Christopher Dare voting. I like it. And by the way, welcome back, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Approval agenda, how about approval of the minutes? Mr. Dare,
I move to approve the minutes of the Spark City Council meeting for February 13th, 2023.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we're moving up. Do we have Walt White? Are you on the phone?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so we're moving up 9.2 to right now. And Allison, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the City Council. For the record, I'm Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager for Management Services. I am very pleased to bring before you today a contract with Walter White, who, as the mayor said, is on the phone, for the position of Fire Chief. Chief White comes to us with 36 years of experience in the fire service in California, including several years as a fire chief. His contract provides for a salary of $224,280 per year, his fiscal year. I would like to thank David Reddy and Ralph Anderson and Associates, our outside recruiting firm, as well as our human resources staff, particularly Director Jill Valdez and Senior Analyst Ariana Wichapa, for their hard work in getting us to this point. I am excited to welcome Chief White to the City of Sparks, and I'm excited to see how he helps Sparks Fire Department and the city as a whole move forward. I am happy to answer any questions, and staff is wholeheartedly recommending approval of this employment agreement.
Questions from the council? Anyone? Okay, go ahead.
No question, just a comment. Thank you to everyone who's been working on this, and it's been a long road. And I just want to say in our last meeting, I had a week and a half ago with Walt White, chance to really sit down, talk again, revisit, his qualifications. I think he absolutely is the right person at the right time. I think his resume is really impressive of what he comes to the city with, and I think his leadership style is a good fit for us. Very calm, very knowledgeable, and I have a lot of confidence in him, and we'll be glad to be supporting this motion when it's made. Thank you.
Mr. Dare?
Yeah, I just want to have, assuming this passes, welcome in that case, if we get to do that. But when I first got to meet him as part of our initial group, I definitely recognized the leadership skills and the things he brought to the table and his years of service, which I think will become very important to what we have. Obviously, if you're out there listening, this is our first of bringing in somebody from the outside in years. Is it been ever that we brought in someone from the outside? I don't.
No, it has not.
It's not, so this is our first then. And so, but it's kind of exciting actually, because I do think that he brings some great perspective and some things that we can use right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, let's go ahead and take a vote then, and then we'll have Walt say a few words. So I'm looking for a motion, Ms. Bybee.
I move to approve the employment agreement AC 5918 with Walter W. White as the Sparks Fire Chief effective March 27th, 2023, with an annual salary of $224,280 plus benefits.
Mr. Anderson.
I will second the motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Mr. White, you have anything to say?
Mayor Lawson, members of the council, Walter White. I genuinely appreciate your vote of approval, and I would like to thank the city manager, Neil Kreutz, and his team for putting together this agreement. I had planned to be there in person. However, given the whiteout travel conditions in the Sierras today, discretion became the better part of valor. I am extremely humbled by this opportunity and anxious to get started. I am actively in the process and diligently transferring responsibilities from my current position and commitment in Amador, and I am looking forward to giving the residents and fire department members of Sparks my full focus and attention. I did want to, lastly, I just wanted to thank a few individuals that have been very generous with their time and attention and have been answering my many questions, and that's Interim Chief Jim Kindness, Deputy Chief Kevin Jacobus, Local 731 President Dan Tapia, Vice President Darren Jackson, Matthew Joseph, and Frank Marvetts. With that, I just want to say I'm extremely humbled and honored for this opportunity, and I am very anxious to get started.
Well, thank you. And we'll excuse you not getting over the hill because you would have to probably start work tomorrow. You wouldn't be able to get back. But no, it's a good thing. Safety is more important right now. We're looking forward to it. Do we have a start date?
March 27th.
March 27th.
March 27th. All right, we'll await your arrival. Good luck to you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Walt. All right, we're going to move on.
Thank you.
7.1 Proclamation Social Work Month. Mr. Abbott.
Perfecto. So whereas social workers enter the profession because they have a strong in the United States, working daily to help thousands of Americans overcome mental illness such as depression and anxiety. And whereas social workers are on the front lines of the nation's opioid addiction crisis, helping people get the treatment they need and prevail over substance use disorders. And whereas social workers help people cope with grief and help people with communities recover from natural disasters that are increasingly fueled by climate change, including hurricanes, drought, wildfires, and flooding. And whereas social workers advocate for equal rights for all, including but not limited to people of color, people who are indigenous, people who are LGBTQIA+, and people who follow various faiths. And whereas the social work profession is one of the fastest growing career fields in the United States, with about 708,000 social workers today, more than 60,000 more social workers expected to enter the profession over the next decade. Whereas social workers have continued to push for change that have made our society a better place to live, including a livable wage, improved workplace safety, and social safety net programs that help ameliorate, thanks Wesley, poverty, hunger, and homelessness. And whereas social workers endeavor to work throughout our society to meet people who they are and empower people to reach the goals they wish to obtain. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Ed Lawson, the Mayor of the City of Sparks, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Social Work Month. Thanks.
You're welcome. We're going to practice those words for you later, Donald. You could just ask your attorney. He knows Latin. Okay.
Probably gave him that word. That wasn't nice of him.
Okay. Let's move on to Proclamation Women in Construction Week. Ms. Vanderwell.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas women throughout Northern Nevada help ensure economic growth and stability through their many contributions to the construction industry as general contractors, subcontractors, architects, engineers, project managers, and tradespeople. And whereas the Women in Construction Committee of the Nevada chapter of Associated General Contractors is dedicated to promoting the employment and advancement of women in the construction industry throughout our community, state, and nation. And whereas the Northern Nevada Community of Women in Construction has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trade careers, and a positive vision of the future. And whereas the 2023 observance of Women in Construction Week recognizes the skill and expertise exhibited by women in the construction industry and their invaluable contributions to the industry and the community. Now therefore, I, Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, Nevada, do hereby proclaim March 5th through March 11th, 2023 as Women in Construction Week. And I do have, I have Allison Wong, who is the Chair of Women in Construction for AGC, and Chrysalyn Carr from AGC that are here to accept.
Come on down. You guys can say a few words to our millions of viewers.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We appreciate the recognition for all that women do in the construction industry.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get a picture with Ms. Vanderwell.
Do you have anybody here for this one? Is there anyone here for
All right. I don't-
International Women's Day?
I don't see anybody.
I don't know that they're-
Thank you. Do we have anyone here for the International Women's Day?
A bunch of people. There's a bunch
Julie?
of women out there.
Julie, you're going to be that. Okay, go ahead, let's read that proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas International Women's Day is celebrated globally on March 8th by those who believe in gender equality and who seek to improve the lives of all women through cultural, legal, economic, and social change. And whereas International Women's Day celebrates the collective power of women, pays tribute to their achievements, and recognizes the remaining challenges to further efforts for women's rights and gender equality, encouraging and mobilizing all people to contribute to positive change. And whereas the City of Sparks honors the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our country, including those whose contributions have not been adequately recognized and celebrated. And whereas the City of Sparks pays tribute to the trailblazers from the recent and distant past for daring to envision a future for which no past precedent existed, and for building a nation of endless possibilities for all its women. And whereas Kamala Harris is currently serving as the 49th Vice President, the first woman to do so, and the highest-ranking female official in the United States history. And whereas there are women serving in leadership positions federally, statewide, and locally, inspiring the continued work in advancing the rights, opportunities, and full participation in all aspects of society of women and girls of all backgrounds. And whereas on International Women's Day, we celebrate and encourage everyone to take actions against gender bias and inequity in support of the 2023 theme of Embrace Equity. Therefore, on behalf of Ed Lawson, Mayor of the City of Sparks, we do hereby proclaim March 8th, 2023 as International Women's Day.
Okay. All right, let's move on to items 7.4 through 7.7. Mr. Kreutz.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and members of the council. For the record, Neil Kreutz, City Manager, here to announce a total of 10 vacancies across 4 different board volunteer opportunities. The first is the Sparks Citizens Advisory Committee, where we have 2 vacancies on the committee, 1 Ward 4 and 1 Ward 4 alternate member, each serving a term that is coterminous with the appointing city council member's term. Committee members must be Sparks residents. Applications for these vacancies will be accepted until Friday, March 3rd at 5 p.m. Next up is the Sparks Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, where we have 4 vacancies, 1 alternate each for wards 1, 2, 3, and 4, each serving a term coterminous with the appointing city council member's term. Committee members must be Sparks residents, preferably over the age of 55. Applications for these vacancies will also be accepted until Friday, March 3rd at 5 p.m. Next up is the Sparks Building Code Board of Appeals, where we have 2 vacancies, each for 2-year terms. The first vacancy is for a registered architect, and the second is for a builder/superintendent of building. Each must have at least 10 years of experience, 5 being in responsible charge of work. Applications for these vacancies will be accepted until Friday, March 17th at 5 p.m. And finally, on the Sparks Police Advisory Committee, there are 2 vacancies, 1 for a business representative and 1 at-large representative, each for a partial term that will end September 30th of 2023. Members shall either be residents or business owners in Sparks. If selected, members must participate in a Sparks Police Department Citizens Academy and undergo a background check. Applications for these vacancies will be accepted until this Friday, March 3rd at 5 p.m. Anyone interested in serving on committees or in volunteering in general at Sparks should fill out a community service application, most easily gotten at our website, www.cityofsparks.us/getinvolved. That's all one big word. Once you're there, complete the form and hit submit. Thank you, Mayor Lawson.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to consent items. Anyone wishing to pull a consent item? If not, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott,
I move to approve consent items 8.1 through 8.2 as submitted.
Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, moving on. General business 9.1, consideration, discussion, and possible confirmation of the mayor's appointment to the City of Sparks Planning Commissioner to serve on the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission for a partial term ending June 30th of 2025 from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: Clara Andriola, Marilyn Kramer, Carl Nieberlin, Evan Pritsos, and Mike Rousen. Mr. Rundle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jim Rundle, City Planner. The Sparks Planning Commission, at their most recent meeting, forwarded a recommendation to you as the mayor to propose to the council to support Commissioner Kramer to be serve that term at Regional Planning.
Okay, questions from the council? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to confirm the mayor's appointment of Marilyn Kramer to serve on the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission for a partial term ending June 30th, 2025.
Ms. Bybee.
I'll second that motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 9.3, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of an employment agreement AC 5917 with Michael Drinkwater as Community Services Director effective March 13th, 2023, with an annual salary of $190,250 plus benefits. Mr. Martini.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson, members of the council. John Martini, your Assistant City Manager. I'm excited to be here before you today for your consideration of an employment agreement with Mike Drinkwater to take over as our Community Services Director following Mr. Ornellis's soon-to-be retirement. The starting salary, as included in the employment agreement, is $190,250. Benefits include health insurance, deferred compensation, annual leave, sick leave, and long-term disability. Similar to our other executive contracts, if approved today, the contract will actually, or the employment agreement, I'm sorry, will commence on March 13th and run through June 30th of 2024. Per the contract, or per the employment agreement, the agreement will automatically renew for a 2-year term with the limitation that the city manager has the ability to limit it to a 1-year term should he choose. So it will automatically renew just like the rest of them. I've known Michael now for a decade. He was included in the Community Services Succession Plan as a candidate for director, and I'm thrilled that he is interested in doing the job. He's been before you many times handling issues at Tumwharf. He's been an outstanding member of the Community Services Management Team, where he serves as a functional manager, of course, over Tumwharf. We know him to be a person who is a good communicator, shows good leadership skills, is transparent and honest in all he does, and staff highly recommends you approve this employment agreement today. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions should you have them.
Questions from the council? Seeing none, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
Yes, I'd be honored to move to approve the employment agreement, AC 5917, with Michael Drinkwater as Community Services Director, effective March 13th, 2023, with an annual salary of $190,250 plus benefits.
Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously, just by the skin of your teeth, Michael. Congratulations. We look forward to having you in this building for a while. Okay, 9.4, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the funding allocation of $37,500 for FY '23 and $186,300 for FY '24 as recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee for the 2023 special event season.
Good afternoon, Mayor Lawson and council members. I'm Emily Pate, Administrative Manager for the Parks and Recreation Department. I'm before you today to ask for your approval of funding allocation of $37,500 for fiscal year '23 and $186,300 for fiscal year '24 as recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee for the 2023 special event season. The funding comes from lodging tax funds through the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority and have historically been used for special events and marketing activities. The Tourism and Marketing Committee is the assigned committee to make recommendations for these funds. The committee met January 10th and recommended funding distributions based on applications submitted by local producers. Above shows the producers that applied and the funding amounts that were awarded. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from the council? This was the fastest funding meeting we've ever had.
On a
It took
snowy
about
day, too.
10 minutes. It was pretty easy. We just did the same thing as last year. We're looking for a good event season. Any other questions from the council? All right, seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Abbott.
I move to approve the funding allocation of $37,500 for FY '23 and $186,300 for FY '24 as recommended by the Tourism and Marketing Committee for 2023 special events.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. 9.5, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of the construction contract AC 5916 in the amount of $2,446,007 with Sierra Nevada Construction, Inc. for the 2023 Street Rehabilitation Unit 1 Expressway Neighborhood Project Bid Number 22/23-020 PWP-WA-2023-141. Now repeat that back to me, Amber.
You did such a good job. I think you covered it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I'm Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager, as so eloquently introduced. This is a construction contract for our 2023 Street Rehabilitation Unit 1 project that's located in the Expressway neighborhood. The contract is proposed with Sierra Nevada Construction for $2,446,007. This project was prioritized through our city's pavement management program. It was also outlined in the 5-year program of projects. To direct you to the screen to help orientate yourself, you'll see towards your right, you'll see Sparks Boulevard. And the streets that are included on this project include Express from Sparks Boulevard to Coachman, Union from O'Callahan down to Express, and Burnside Drive. The project scope identifies the need to replace any deteriorated curb and gutter, sidewalk, and driveway approaches within the project. We'll also be upgrading any ADA ramps to bring them up to ADA code. There was a portion of sanitary sewer that required rehab within the limits, and that scope is also included in the project. We advertised this in January and received 4 bids, with Sierra Nevada Construction being the low bid. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, questions from the council? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
And before I make a motion, I just want to say I've already heard from some of the people that know about this, and they're already excited about it. So thank you. We appreciate the help in that area. The roads are rough. I move to approve the construction contract AC 5916 in the amount of $2,446,007 with Sierra Nevada Construction Incorporated for the 2023 Street Rehabilitation Unit 1 Expressway Neighborhood Project, bid number 22-23-020 PWP WA 2023141.
Mr. Dare,
I'll second that.
I was making sure you read it correctly, because I had it memorized. I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? See none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. 9.6, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract, AC 5915, in the amount of $543,007 with Sierra Nevada Construction, Inc. for the 2023 Street Cut Permanent Patch Project, bid number 22-23-021 PWP WA-2023-142.
Thank you again, Mayor, members of council. Still Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. As introduced again, this is another construction contract. This is for our 2023 Straight Cut Permanent Patch Program. It is proposed with Sierra Nevada Construction for $543,007. This is a contract that you see annually. It comes before you, and the scope of it is permanently patching our streets that are cut by contractors and developers through our Street Cut program. City staff does provide direction and inspect the patching work through this program, and the program is entirely self-funded, with all of the costs associated with the program being recouped through the street cut process. We advertised this project in January. We received 2 bidders, and Sierra Nevada Construction was the low bid at $543,007. I do not have a fancy map to show you where this one is located. The patches are determined through the street cuts and where they're pulled at. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Mr. Dare.
Yeah, just with all the pricing that's doing what it's done as of late, how far does this stretch compared to even last year or the year before? And is there, as obviously replacing road is something that we have to continue to look at, is what we're funding enough to do what we need to do? Is there a look that we need to have at this a little differently because of the cost of things?
Sure. To the best of my knowledge, we actually are staying up on this. We look at that every year when we set our CIP. The last few years, we've done a lot of work to get this program caught up. And we do feel like this amount is adequate as the funds come in with the street cuts. If we get behind, it's obviously something that we can bring back to you. This specific project has kind of a filler quantity in it, so should we need more, it would be something that would be very easy to bring back to you. We also are monitoring inflation on costs and adjusting our street cuts accordingly as needed.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Dare.
Sure. I move to approve a construction contract AC 5915 in the amount of $543,007 with Sierra Nevada Construction Incorporated for the 2023 Street Cut Permanent Patch Project, bid number 22-23-021 PWP $WA-2023-142. And it's not a dollar sign, I'm sorry, that is a hashtag.
Or a pound sign.
Pound
For us
sign.
old guys.
Thank you.
I said pound because I'm oldest.
Okay, I got a motion, Mr. Abbott.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Amber. 9.7, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a construction contract AC 5912 in the amount of $1,703,269.60 with FW Carson Company for the Glen Meadow Drive Storm Drain Improvement Project. And I'm not going to read all those letters.
I don't blame you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, good afternoon, members of the council. For the record, Kevin Porter, Utility Manager. And as Mayor Lawson just alluded to, this is for a construction contract for a storm drain improvements project. And this project aims to mitigate some pooling and some ponding of storm water that both our storm drain master plan had identified, and also many of us have seen with our own eyes over the last several years when we get a significant winter storm or a high-intensity summer thunderstorm. If I can direct your eyes to the exhibits on the screen, the project location will be, of course, along this blue line alignment. And just to orient you, this is just south of Bering Boulevard. This is along Glen Meadow Drive, and then to the intersection of Goldie Way. And then off to your right here, this is Sparks Boulevard. So we're just to the west of Sparks Boulevard and south of Bering Boulevard. If council will recall, we originally put this project out to bid in April of 2022. We only received 2 bids at that time, and the low bid was about 60% greater than the engineer's estimate. And so staff brought forward an item that council ultimately approved to reject those 2 bids and wait until we felt more comfortable with the bidding environment to re-advertise the project. So fast forward to December of 2022, we re-advertised the project. We included some different pipe materials to try to ultimately allow the contractors to bid what would be the cheapest pipe material at the time of bid. And then we also lengthened the start window of construction to try to provide for a more competitive bid environment and encourage some more bidders. We did get more bids on this project. We received a total of 5 bids. And the lowest, as Mayor Lawson read, was with FW Carson Company for just over $1.7 million. And that is approximately $64,000 less than the original low bid when we rejected those 2 bids. So we did get a more competitive bid environment, and we got a lower bid this time around, not as low as I was hoping for, but we does seem to see that we're seeing some pricing stabilize, certainly on the material side. And this project was originally approved with the fiscal year 20 CIP, and staff recommends approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from the council. Ms. Bybee.
So Kevin, you mentioned trying to lower the cost of the project for the bidders and looking at the cost of pipe. Going with a less expensive pipe, will that affect longevity or performance of that pipe? I like that you've lowered the cost, but I'm just concerned, does it have any effect long-term?
The easy answer, Councilmember Bybee, is no. We vetted the pipe materials that we allowed in the contract, and we have, staff has confidence in, essentially we didn't allow a pipe material that had a significantly less lifespan into the contract. And ultimately what happened was on the original contract, we just had PVC pipe in. And what we found out was when those bids went out, reinforced concrete pipe was actually cheaper at essentially that day when the contractors got their quotes to fill the bids. So this time around, we allowed for concrete pipe to be bid, as well as an ADS material pipe that's more of a poly pipe. And they all have strengths and lifespans that we were comfortable with. Ultimately, what happened with this new contract is it went back to the original material. PVC was the cheapest at the time of this bid, and that's what the contractor bid. So,
okay, thank you.
Excellent question, though. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dare.
Yeah, 2 quick questions. When do you think this might happen?
As I did mention, we allowed for a very significant start window to try to garner some more bids for this project. So we're ultimately waiting for approval today, and then we will begin working with FW Carson to set a start date schedule. So I can't speak to the exact time, but the window that we allowed is essentially a year from approval today. And normally on these projects, we would see a late spring, summer, fall work. But potentially what we kind of allowed for this time was if a contractor wants to try to take on that risk during winter, when usually their schedule is lower, they could in this instance, so.
Gotcha. My second question, so I know that area and the flooding pretty well, there's Excel.
We don't say the F word.
Yeah, I don't say the F word, by the way, but the question
of water.
the question I have is what's the next? Does that take care of most of this area, or is there a next wave of what needs to happen because I've driven through those ponds quite often right in that area.
That's an excellent question as well, and unfortunately, the answer is no. This project will not take care of all of that ponding and the pooling that we see, and what I'll say is that larger Goldie Way neighborhood issue, if you go to the north of Bering Boulevard, we also see a similar issue there. And really, we're up against several constraints on the engineering with this project. It really is dependent on what water level the North Truckee drain is at the time, and that stormwater in the storm drain system is trying to compete with the level of the drain when it ultimately flows out. And so what we were able to identify is that the improvements we'll make in this project will have an immediate and a strong impact in this area. We couldn't achieve the same with the engineering on the north side, so our plan is to bring that back in a future CIP and look at some other constructive ideas, potentially a small storm drain pump station, not to the same scale that we recently did at the Vista and Prater intersection, but some similar concept there to help alleviate those areas on the north side.
I only say that, my memory serves me right, it actually began on the north side and then flows over to the other side, is why I say that. So thank you. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Dare.
Yeah, I move to approve the construction contract AC 5912 in the amount of $1,703,269.60 with FW Carson Company for the Glen Meadow Drive Storm Drain Improvement Project, PWP, hashtag WA-2023-113.
Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. All right, 9.8, consideration, discussion, of possible approval of a construction contract, AC 5914, in the amount of $284,000 with Q&D Construction LLC for the sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation project.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For the record, I am Ashley Elson, Senior Civil Engineer with Community Services Department. The project I have for you today is the sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation project. The goal of this project is to stop the groundwater infiltration that we see in our sanitary sewer collection system. This groundwater gets into our system and takes up capacity both in the sewer pipes as well as capacity out at Tumwharf. And we don't want to treat groundwater at Tumwharf. If I could direct your attention to the screen, our public works crews do their annual sewer manhole inspections has identified 20 manholes that have a significant amount of infiltration in them. And these manholes will get their rehabilitation and get that water out of the system. This project was approved through the fiscal year 23 CIP, and the staff moves recommends approval of this project. And with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Question from the council. Mr. Abbott.
How much water do you think we'll be able to reduce after completing those 20?
With the 20, it's hard to say ahead of time, but we will be placing a flow monitoring system on the downstream end of the trunk for this main group that's out there in that northeastern Sparks area. And after all the rehabs are done, we'll be able to get a fairly good gauge on how much reduction in inflow that we see.
Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
My question's along those lines. In the previous project, I know those were more significant issues that we were seeing in those, but how many gallons are we saving the sewer treatment plant from processing from that last project in comparison to this as a ballpark?
The last project consisted, it was kind of two parts. There was 70 initial manholes, and then we added 30 to it. And through those 100 manholes, we were able to see about a half of a MGD reduction in the groundwater infiltration to the system. In million gallons per day.
The beer. So you lost a half a beer.
And I just wanted to say thanks, because I mean, we talk about projects like this and it doesn't seem like that much of a deal, but yeah, I mean, million-gallon day type numbers, those are huge. So thank you very much tonight. I'm glad that we're able to support something like this.
Ms. Bybee.
I do have a question in looking at the map here. A lot of that is out in my ward and in the newer neighborhoods. So is there something different in the manholes? I would think they'd be newer and more efficient than, or have we done the older neighborhoods and now these are the ones that we still have to get to?
It kind of just, it varies depending on neighborhood to neighborhood and manhole to manhole. Some of them, it's just the pore water pressure and the groundwater table is kind of varies as you go through different pockets, and some of them just get a lot of pressure. Some of the manhole barrels don't seat very well on each other, and it really just kind of depends on which manhole we're looking at. We can go, 3 in a row, and one of them will be perfect, and then 2 of them will be just spurting water in, and those are the ones we try to go after first. Our Public Works crews has a criteria of how they assess and categorize each manhole, and we try to get the significant low-hanging fruit first.
Thank you. Really important work. I mean, when you first when we first started this, it was fascinating for those of us who don't even think about the manholes other than driving over them with our cars. We're not thinking about that impact, especially on Tomworth. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Anderson.
I move to approve the construction contract AC 5914 in the amount of $284,000 with Q&D Construction LLC for the sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation project PWP #WA20-011.
Missed 2023.
2023-011. Sorry.
Have to keep you legal here. Okay, Ms. Bybee.
I will second that motion.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done then, Ashley? Okay. 9.9, consideration, discussion, of possible approval of a tentative map for 88 lot, single-family residential subdivision on a site approximately 15.4 acres in size. APN 528-330-21 located at 6622 Rolling Meadows Drive, Sparks, Nevada, in the PD Plan Development Pioneer Meadows Zoning District. That's it. I'm not reading all the letters. We'll read it in the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Jonathan Cummins from the city's planning division, here today with a request for a tentative map for an 88 lot subdivision on 15.4 acres in the Pioneer Meadows Plan Development. The Pioneer Meadows Plan Development, is outlined in blue in the exhibit, obviously. So for some neighborhood context, just to the west is the Kiley Ranch North Plan Development. To the east is the Wingfield Springs Plan Development, and just south of Pioneer Meadows is where Vista Boulevard starts to go from going northward to where it bends out towards Golden Eagle. This is a 640-acre plan development approved by the City Council in 2006. The handbook for the Pioneer Meadows has been amended several times in the years since then, most recently in 2022. The subject site for the 88-lot subdivision is outlined in red in this map, but I will zoom in a little bit here to give you a little bit closer view of the intended sort of orientation of the lots in the subdivision. And so this image gives you a general outline, not just of the anticipated entryway and front yard landscaping throughout the neighborhood, but also of the orientation and general variety of lots and their shapes and sizes throughout the neighborhood. And so the proposed 88 lots on 15.4 acres will result in a residential density of 5.7 dwelling units per acre. And this is in the MF15A land use area of Pioneer Meadows, which allows for a variety of housing types and densities. And so with that in mind, what you're seeing here is a range of lot sizes that go from 3,500 at the smallest up to over 11,000 square feet at the largest. And so there's a pretty significant variety proposed. And so as you know, in the review of a tentative map, the council has to make 12 findings here on the record today. So I will go as swiftly as I can through those, and I've paired several of them up here to expedite our review. Finding T1 asks for you to consider conformance with the comprehensive plan. Staff finds that the proposed tentative map meets goal H2 and H3, which look for a diverse housing market, desirable neighborhoods to make City of Sparks a desirable place to live. The request also conforms to policy CC8 to foster neighborhood diversity, policy CF1, which requires that city services be provided, and policy H1 requiring that the appropriate zoning, infrastructure, and public services are in place to allow for new housing development to take place in the City of Sparks. Finding C4, policy C4 as well requires that there be adequate pedestrian networks in place for all new developments. So I've grouped together the next four for your review. Finding T2 asks for conformance with the street master plan. This does conform to the original traffic study produced and analyzed at the original handbook for the Pioneer Meadows. Finding T3 asks for conformance with all applicable environmental health laws. Relevant agencies were notified of the request and had no specific concerns with it. Findings T4 and T5 ask us to consider availability of water and utilities. Obviously, the Truckee Meadows Water Authority will provide water service to the site, and the City of Sparks will provide utility services, including sewer and storm drain, each of which are prepared for the development at this location, again, as established at the Plan Development Handbook originally associated with these land uses and densities. Finding T6 asks you to consider services related to school, police, transportation, utilities, and parks. On the school part, the site will be served by the Bohatch Elementary School and Sky Ranch Middle School, which are just to the west in the Kylie Ranch North Plan development, and it'll be served by the Spanish Springs High School. Sparks Police Department will provide police service. On the transportation side, the proposed subdivision will generate 831 new vehicle trips per day, 90 of those occurring in the PM peak hour. Those volumes of traffic were anticipated and accounted for in the original traffic analyses prepared for the Pioneer Meadows. On utilities, again, provided by the City of Sparks, this subdivision is anticipated to produce 57,000 gallons of sewage per day. Storm drain infrastructure is in place, and electrical service will be provided by Nevada Energy, or NV Energy, excuse me. Finally, on parks, just to the west of this site, 700 feet away or so, is the site of a future city park. However, the Fireburst Park is just down the street as well, near the Rayleigh Shopping Center, which you might be familiar with. Finding T7 asks for you to consider the effect on existing streets. Again, 831 new trips will be generated by the subdivision, all anticipated at the time of the original traffic study. Finding T8 asks you to consider the physical characteristics of the landscape. So that includes floodplain, slope, and soils. The site is outside the 100-year flood hazard area. There's no significant sloping. And condition 9, included with the staff report for this item, require that the geotechnical report be approved prior to the recordation of a final map. Finding T9 asks you to consider comments from outside agencies. Again, we heard from the Washoe County School District, who outlined the affected schools, and we heard from the Health District at the county, who did not address any specific concerns with this request. Finding T10 asks you to consider the availability of fire protection. The site is not within the 4-minute commute time from a Sparks Fire Department station. However, there will likely be a new fire station operating just down the road from this site. As such, because the site is not currently served by a 4-minute fire response time, the homes will have to be sprinklered. So condition 13 from our staff report outlines this issue, and so there's two possible scenarios. One of those being that if the final map is recorded prior to the new fire station being operational, the homes would be required to be sprinklered. If the fire station is operational at the time of that final map, fire sprinklers would not be required. Therefore, condition 13 would not apply. Finding T11 asks you to consider any other impacts. So on this one, we only identify the basic review of architecture and landscaping, each of which would be presented to staff for review of conformance with the handbook, as well as for documentation of the Design Review Committee approval of the Pioneer Meadows prior to the recordation of that final map. And finding T12 asks you to consider public noticing. The posting of today's agenda serves as the notice of a general business item. And as a general business item, there's no public hearing requirement. The Planning Commission forwarded a recommendation of approval at its January 19th meeting. Applicant's representative is here today, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right, questions from the council? Mr. Dare?
Yeah, on those roads, are they gonna be able to park next to the houses and things of that fashion? Are those roads not parkable inside of there? And the reason I ask is that area right now, a lot of people from the apartments are parking right in that area. And so if people also can't park on those streets, we're already running into an issue over there. And that's a practical thing. That's not necessarily Pioneer Meadows' problem, but it's gonna be a problem for them if they're not able to park inside of their lots.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, if I may address that question. Councilman Dare, we don't have architecture to review at this time, which gives us sort of, we can't really speak to exactly whether or not there's going to be 3-car garages with 3 additional spaces for parking in a driveway, for instance. But the subdivision will be served by city streets, and parking is allowed on city streets. And so beyond that, I couldn't really address.
Well, that's helpful, though.
Okay.
At least we're not, 'cause some roads sometimes have it where you can't park in there except in the thing, so that we're not pushing more things out into the street.
Sure, right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
That actually answered my question.
Anyone else? Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Dare?
I move to approve the tentative map for an 88-lot, single-family residential subdivision on a site approximately 15.4 acres in size, APN 528-330-21, located at 6622 Rolling Meadow Drive, Sparks, Nevada, in the PD Plan Development and Pioneer Meadows Zoning District. Adopting findings T1 through T12 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 13.
Ms. Bybee?
I'll second that motion.
I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Jonathan. Madam Clerk, 9.10, first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first reading of Bill 2806 to rezone real property approximately 3.72 acres in size located at 295 Lillard Drive, Sparks, Nevada, from TC Tourist Commercial to I Industrial, APN 037-252-16. A public hearing will be held, and Bill 2806 will be acted upon at the regular meeting of the Sparks City Council on Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 2 p.m. within the Legislative Building.
Okay, 9.11, the first reading.
This is a first reading of Bill 2807 to rezone real property approximately 1.91 acres in size located at 1845 Glendale Avenue, Sparks, Nevada, from TC Tourist Commercial to I Industrial, APN 034-031-44. A public hearing will be held, and Bill 2807 will be acted upon at the regular meeting of the Sparks City Council on Monday, March 13th, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Sparks City Council Legislative Building.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on. Item 10, public hearing and action items unrelated to planning and zoning. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a public hearing, consideration, discussion, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding amending the current collective bargaining agreement, AC 5818, between the City of Sparks and International Association of Firefighters Local 731, with anticipated cost increases of $194,233 in the general fund and $3,865 in all other funds in the remainder of FY23, and $542,793 in the general fund and $12,249 in all other funds in FY24.
Okay, Allison.
Thank you, Mayor Lawson and City Council members. For the record, Allison McCormick, your Assistant City Manager. I'm before you today again, seeking your approval of a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, with International Association, or IAFF, of Firefighters Local 731, which represents our firefighters, fire apparatus operators, fire captains, and the majority of our fire prevention personnel. This MOU would amend the current collective bargaining agreement with Local 731 that covers fiscal years 2022, 23, and 24, expiring June 30th of 2024. The MOU recognizes inflationary pressures and the fact that Reno and Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, our primary competitors for job applicants, approved significant pay increases for their fire personnel in summer of last year. In order to stay competitive and attract and retain qualified personnel, This MOU would provide for a 3.25% pay increase, which would take effect today, which happens to be the start of a pay period. This would be in line with increases that the City Council previously approved earlier this year for our police officers, police sergeants, police lieutenants, and our battalion chief personnel. This increase is expected to increase costs to the city as follows. In the remainder of fiscal year 2023, so the current fiscal year, $194,233 in the general fund and $3,865 in other funds. And in fiscal year 2024, it would increase costs by $542,793 in the general fund and $12,249 in other funds. As a friendly reminder, this does require a public hearing. Staff is recommending approval of this MOU, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, questions from the council? Seeing none, this is a public hearing. I'm gonna open it up to the public. Anyone in public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the dais. Now I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Vanderwell.
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding amending the current collective bargaining agreement AC-5818 between the City of Sparks and the International Association of Firefighters Local 731 with anticipated cost increases of $194,233 in the general fund and $3,865 in all other funds for the remainder of fiscal year '23 and $542,793 in the general fund and $12,249 in all other funds in fiscal year '24.
Mr. Abbott.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. We have no planning and zoning public hearings, so it brings us to public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We did not receive any additional public comments.
Okay.
Just kidding. Just one moment, Mr. Mayor.
Where's your card? Where's your? He always does. You're the only one I allow to sit in your chair and ask questions. Okay, Darren Brew. Got it right, huh?
Very good, thank you. Members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, members of the City Council have the capacity to place an item on an upcoming agenda, and that's today's request. 2 weeks ago, you saw me come before the council during the public comment section with a request that the City Council hear an appeal of a hearing officer. That was a code enforcement issue. The following day, the official written request was submitted to the city clerk. As the Sparks Muni Code outlines, a written reply was received from a assistant city manager containing the statement that the city staff believes my appeal process should be with municipal court. City staff's belief is important, but what really matters is the codified code and Nevada revised statutes. We are in agreement, myself and city staff, that there is a conflict in the code. Municipal court is the path outlined in the administrative section of the code. But the allegation, the supposed violation, is not in the administrative code. It's in the zoning code and in the health and safety code. Both of these sections of the Muni Code allow for an appeal to the City Council. Staff has told me there's never been an appeal of the hearing officer. When asked via email what the established process for the appeal via municipal court was, an email was sent to me that said, "Sorry, we can't tell you. Cannot give you legal advice." Speaking frankly, the municipal code appeal process is non-existent, or it's just starting right now. It's never been used before, and it's obstructing due process. We all get it. When someone's cited by code enforcement for not mowing their lawn or not planting a lawn or having a broken down vehicle in their yard, We just want them to take care of it. We really don't want an appeal. And this is probably the reason there's never been an appeal of the hearing officer's decision. These property owners know they don't have a leg to stand on. This case is different. In a reply to the written appeal request that I sent to the city clerk, the assistant city manager stated that the city clerk will not place the appeal on the council's agenda. The recourse, my recourse, is to ask you, as a member of the city council, to place this on the agenda. There are now 3 issues at hand. The alleged violation, we haven't gotten there yet. The appeal itself, we haven't gotten there yet either. This is the issue that is currently at hand. What venue should hear the appeal? Who makes that decision? Staff doesn't want the appeal. Staff can't be the judge to determine which venue is appropriate to hear an appeal. We should look at the municipal code. There is a conflict, though. 3 codes apply. One of them, I'll make it quick, one of them calls for the administration code, sends me to municipal court. I don't even know that I can go because the property's held in an LLC. I can't represent myself. I believe that's the case. There's no allegation of this municipal code. It's zoning and health, and they both allow for an appeal to the city council. So which venue is it is the first decision. Cut to the end. That's the reason I'm here today. I would like a member of the city council to place that on the agenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
Okay. All right, anyone else in the public wishing to speak at this time? Mr. Bill? You can ask questions. You can ask the question, but we're not going to answer you.
Yeah, right, right. I'll see you guys after, okay? Please, thank you.
Thank you. You're so considerate. All right. Thank you. All right, we're going to bring you back to the dais then. Announcements from the mayor, city council, and city manager. Anybody have any announcements on the dais? Mr. Dare.
I just want to say it's good to see everybody. Hello.
Ms. Vanderwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to speak to Mr. Prue's comment and ask if the city attorney can, regarding this, because it is under 2 different, what as a city council member can we do to assist Mr. Prue?
So I think, looking at this question, our office was asked about our legal opinion. So I will note that city staff, I think, did properly identify that under Title VII actions, that the appellate authority is the municipal court. However, based on the way that this particular case, it's kind of a case of first impression, the way that it was cited. I do think, at least the way that our office analyzes it, there is an ambiguity in terms of, does it directly go to the municipal court, or can the city council entertain the jurisdiction and be the appellate authority? So based on that ambiguity, I don't think it would be improper for the case to either go to the municipal court or for the city council to exercise jurisdiction and be the appellate authority. So as policymakers, we'll leave that to your jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Ms. Bybee?
Excited that we have a new fire chief, but I would like to recognize the current leaders in the fire department, especially Jim Kindness, acting chief, for hanging in there and delaying his much-deserved retirement to get us to this point. So your actions are greatly are appreciated, and wishing you an incredible retirement. But thank you for hanging in there with us, and looking forward to the work that our new fire chief will do, along with our fire department, the union, management, all of us working together and moving things in a real positive way. So thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just if I may go back to that item real quick, I would note that if the city council chooses to exercise jurisdiction on that issue, I think based on the workload that our office is seeing with the interplay with planning, that we could set that out a month and not the next city council meeting, if that's the route the city council chooses. Thanks.
Well, when everyone's done, I've got a request for the city manager, so.
Do you want to go, or I'd like to request the city manager please put this appeal of Mr. Prue on the April 3rd, 2023 agenda, please.
And I'm going to ask the city manager to provide an item to clarify the code so we don't have this mistake again regarding the appeal process and related to where it goes. Okay, anyone else? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Pretty good for a long agenda.